Hi, this is Trevor, and welcome back to our weekly tarot card video. Today is Thursday, July the 16th, 2015, and once again, I'm coming to you from my cozy little studio here at 161 Stafford Street in Winnipeg. It's a rainy day outside today, and rainy days are very special for me in terms of reading. When I was a small boy, I remember being at the lake with my mother and my aunts, and that's when they would oftentimes read each other's tea leaves. So that's part of my family tradition. And they'd be kind of spooky, and there would be some things about it that really were quite strong, quite powerful, and came out of left field. And other parts of it that were entertaining, and it was kind of a lovely kitchen table thing to do. Here in Winnipeg, I think that a lot of people have that kind of kitchen table, very down-to-earth approach to reading, and that's something that I follow to this day. The wooden table in my studio room is actually a kitchen table, so it kind of keeps me grounded in that way. I'm working through the tarot deck, and I've set aside the cards we've covered already. You'll find this and those other videos in a table of contents order on my website at trevorsense.com. And I always include the link underneath this video. But that's also where you'll find information about my work, how to book an appointment with me here in person, as well as articles I've written about tarot and about reading and about some other areas of interest. And as we're kind of getting towards the last few cards of the deck, I'm looking ahead at perhaps some other forms of sharing that can go on. Certainly some more of these videos along different lines, but I'm also going to be getting back into more writing. And I hope to be sharing that through trevorsense.com, as well as some other avenues of my work. That's also where you'll find the link to my Facebook page and some other fun things that kind of tie in. So I've shuffled the cards already, and I did have a little technical glitch, so it lets me be a little more prepared today. I have a prop that I'm going to be using. Our card of the week is the Tower, and this is a very dramatic looking card. You can tell that whatever it's talking about isn't going to be some easy pastoral little picnic. There's upheaval and disruption. This tower is being struck by lightning, and these figures are kind of falling from it. And there's these little flames that are actually in the form of the Hebrew letter Aleph. And this is all a tremendous time of disruption, of expansion, kind of a big awakening. But this isn't something that's like an easy Oprah aha moment. This is like, oh my gosh, my reality's being rocked. And that's very much what the Tower card is about. It's interesting to note that in some of the earlier tarot decks, the decks that kind of evolved out of playing cards, that the Tower card is actually in the Marseille deck, a church being struck by lightning, which sounds terribly sacrilegious. But the idea is that if we're simply just worshiping the structure and worshiping the structure, it's going to eventually get in the way of what we really need to be working with. The structure is important, and the structure has to be respected. But there's times when we have to go beyond that. A lot of us, in life will try to follow a belief system to keep us safe. We do everything that's asked. We follow the prescription. And yet sometimes lightning hits, or rain hits your crop, or someone very dear passes away. Something out of left field that we think isn't supposed to happen, and we question why. And it's at that time that we really kind of move into some very, very challenging and very real growth. There's that powerful business of when bad things happen to good people, and we never know entirely why, but we do know that when bad things happen to good people, that's when there's an opportunity for something to be revealed, for something to move forward. Another thing the Tower card makes me think of, and this is where I said I have a little prop, this is an African violet. And a very dear friend of mine gave me this when I moved into the studio. Now, initially, this plant was quite crowded. There were actually 6 African violets all trying to grow in the same pot. And although it looked pretty, she said, you're going to have to repot this thing. If I didn't, all of them would have died and perished. The structure was holding them in too tightly. So I had to go out and buy 5 pots. I had to repot all these African violets. And now they're starting to grow. But what if the plant was so strong that it actually pushed against the clay and the clay broke? We're moving through so much in our world right now where structures are having to give way, where we're having to kind of recognize that these things are very valuable, but there's evolution that's going on. A friend often says to me to remember that the maker's hand is still upon the clay, that everything is still a work in progress. So sometimes the tower card is where it's time to get kind of repotted, where we respect the structure that's brought us this far, but we have to go beyond it. If you're really interested in getting into something very in depth, there's an article by a tremendous thinker of our age, a fellow named Ken Wilber, and I was turned on to this from some very dear friends who do a lot of spiritual seeking. And the article, I believe, is translative versus transformative spirituality, a spirituality that transforms. And that's an interesting article. We follow disciplines and we follow structure, but it leads to an awakening. When we look at the Tower card in its sequence in the major arcana, it's followed by the Star card. So when we've kind of gone through this disruption, this sense of following a system and something gets disrupted, we have to start basing our direction on something that is not just circumstantial. So if you were at sea and you couldn't find which way to go, like north or south or east or west, but you could find the North Star in the heavens, that would give you a sense of direction. So we base our direction not just on our circumstances, not just on getting what we want, but the idea that there's something greater within ourselves that's kind of striving and moving forward. And listening to that, getting those glimpses in terms of those things. So that's part of that sequence, that sense of moving forward. Right? So not an easy card. I especially think when it was quite literally a powerful image around 9/11, when towers were struck by lightning, when things happened and people said that shouldn't be going on here. Well, it shouldn't be going on anywhere, but it did. And our whole reality went through a change. Our whole sense of our culture, our whole ideas, our illusions of immunity and entitlement and all of those things got a big, powerful wake-up call. And I think we're still feeling the repercussions of that. So as we rebuild, we don't simply just put the same structure right back into place the same way. We build, but we build in a way that is open perhaps to some greater ideas, some greater possibilities and potentials. And we go through that change and transformation in ourselves. It's not always easy, but when we oftentimes look around, we see other people that are doing that work.